Hi everybody, how you doing? So we've talked about ancient Egypt. We've talked about their culture, their traditions. We talked about social hierarchy. We've talked about daily life in Egypt. We've talked about death, religion. Well, today we're going to talk about some of the greatest things that took place in Egypt, which were the architecture, the art, and the writing system. Egyptian hieroglyphics were one of the world's first writing systems. Hieroglyphics is Egypt's writing system, and this writing system took place as people plants called papyrus by the edges of the rivers. And what they would do is they would take these reeds and they would smash them and they would make it like paper. And so what people would do is they would take this papyrus and combine it with other smashed reeds and kind of made like a paper-like substance with it. And so what they would do is they would begin to write symbols on this papyrus, and each symbol represented one or more sounds of the Egyptian language. Hieroglyphics are written horizontally and vertically. One of the greatest discoveries of the Egyptian writing system is the Rosetta Stone. Historians and archaeologists could not read hieroglyphics. There was no way to translate them. They had no documents that helped them to translate the Egyptian language into Greek or English, or any other language for that matter. However, in 1799, a French soldier discovered a huge granite stone. I mean, this thing is big. It's really humongous. The biggest granite stone I guarantee you've ever seen. Well, this granite stone is called the Rosetta Stone. The stone had hieroglyphics, Greek and a later form of Egyptian writing, engraved on it. The text was the same in all three languages. This discovery allowed scholars who knew Greek to translate the text. So from this point forward, the world was now able to translate the hieroglyphics and understand it, and understand what each symbol meant and what the Egyptians were saying. This is a really big discovery. Okay. Now we talked about the writing system. Let's talk a little bit about the architecture. So we see Egypt's temples and pyramids, and these things are humongous. Big, gigantic buildings and monuments, okay? So why did the Egyptians build marvelous temples? The Egyptians believed that temples were the homes of the gods. So the temples were places where the gods lived in. So they wanted to make this place, the temple, beautiful, magnificent, full of beautiful artwork depicting the gods and the gods' actions and the people's actions of how to serve the god and them serving the god. Well, you may ask, well, how were they used? Well, people visited the temples to worship, people offered gifts to the gods, and people asked the gods for favors. Sphinxes lined the path leading to the temple's entrance. Sphinx. It's a vocabulary word, so remember, write it down. This animal had the body of a lion laying down with the face of a pharaoh. So, they also had an obelisk. Obelisks may have been placed at the side of the entrance. And I say may because you can place it wherever they wanted to, but most of the time it's on the side of the entrance. Another vocabulary word, obelisk. Write it down. Obelisk is a really big, tall tower with a pointed top. Okay, you're going to see it at the Washington Monument. That's an obelisk. Okay, so for people who say that ancient history has nothing to do with modern history, they're wrong. Look at the White House, look at the back of the dollar, it's all there. Okay, so what did the inside of the temple look like? There's this temple called Karnak, one of the most important temples of Egypt. This temple was Egypt's largest temple ever built. This temple was dedicated to Amun-Re, the sun god. This temple was one of Egypt's major religious centers for centuries. Temples had the greatest art ever in the world in these temples. Okay, so the art, Egyptian art, of it everywhere. But in ancient Egypt, artists often worked in the chambers of the pharaoh's tomb, painting detailed pictures. Remember, the Ka. Remember, that's the spirit that left the body. Remember, it goes back to what we talked about with the traditional Egyptian way of thinking about death. Usually the best works of art were produced in the tombs of the pharaohs. And you may ask why? Well, because the afterlife. The afterlife is very important. And these pictures helped guide them in the afterlife. What about the tombs? What about the pyramids? Well, one of the greatest pyramids, one of the biggest pyramids, was the Temple of Khufu. It took over 10 years to build and over 2 million limestones. The most famous tomb found was in 1922. It was King Tut's tomb. The tomb was untouched. And this showed the world about the architecture, the art, and about the writing. It was all in his tomb. So thank you for listening. And remember, the 3 main achievements of the Egyptians are writing, art, and architecture. Alright guys, I'll see you soon.